Hi, I'm CF3 Loyal, still staying at home every other Saturday, and it's been a while since I brought you the latest quintessential Rangers vlog. I've made the decision not to vlog every week or after every game, as I have family commitments with baby number 2 due next month. But it was nice to get 4 or 5 people messaging me asking for a vlog following the Old Firm game, so I'm duly obliging. Even though those people messaging were my dad, my brother, my brother-in-law, my best pal, still counts, doesn't it? But here I am. A lot's happened since my last vlog, and I want to touch on a few of them before I do get to the Old Firm game, starting with Galatasaray. With the 2-1 victory over Galatasaray, Rangers sealed our place for the 3rd year in a row under Gerrard in the Europa League group stages. Now, I'm not going to cover old ground and go through the game. I want to call out 3 reasons why the game against Galatasaray was so important for Rangers. Number 1, finance. Rangers are reliant on Europa League income. It's estimated that we will generate between £6 to £8 million from the group stages of the Europa League, and therefore we have become fairly reliant on the Europa League income. There was a few rumours circulating that if we did not qualify for the group stages, we may have to sell one of our prized assets. So therefore, from a squad perspective, group stage qualification was essential. Number 2, the coefficient. Now, Turkey are actually 11th in the coefficient table, Scotland 12th. A victory for Rangers against Galatasaray would see Scottish football overtake Turkish football and go into the 11th place of the coefficient table, further cementing the 2 teams in the Champions League, and hopefully at some point in the future that will continue to mean that we will not have to go through the many qualifying rounds both in the Europa League and also in the Champions League. So a huge victory for the coefficient in Scottish football. Number 3, the prestige, the attraction. Players want to play in the Europa League. Sponsors want to sponsor teams that are playing in the Europa League. In fact, it was actually the first thing that Zungu said when he joined Rangers, is that he's excited about the challenge of playing in the Europa League. It was important for us to be able to qualify for Europa League to retain our top players, but also attract future players of a certain calibre. We've also had a transfer window sandwiched between 2 routine league victories against Ross County and Celtic. I mentioned Zungu earlier on the last day of the transfer window, we finally got our man. It was a transfer story that we've seen develop throughout the majority of the transfer window, but Gerrard got his man, and this is what he had to say. We made it clear that we wanted a player who will enhance our squad and starting 11. We believe Bongani does this. Now, I think most people seen the need to sign another central midfield player to rest guys like Stephen Davis, and in case anything happens to one of our midfielders, as has happened with Ryan Jack, Bongani Zungu not only adds that depth to our squad that we've been looking for, but he adds something very different. He's a player that I don't know too much about, but a number of his 234,000 South African Twitter followers were very keen to point out that he is a deep-lying playmaker, very skillful, and a man who is capable of picking out a killer ball. More importantly though, we see no outgoings. No Ryan Kent to Leeds, no James Tavernier to West Ham, and no Alfredo Morelos to absolutely anyone in Europe that's been linked with him in this time, and I think that's the most important thing. We then also had the Ross County game where Rangers won 2-0. Again, I'm not going to go into detail. All I'm going to say in the Ross County game is it wasn't pretty, but these are the games that you need to win if you want to win a league title. And that brings us finally to the Old Firm match, the first time in 10 months that the Glasgow Giants have met each other, and the final score finished Celtic 0, Rangers 2. One of the most pleasing things about the victory is that we managed to handle the tag of being favourites. It's something in recent history we've not been able to do, and we've been able to go to Celtic Park and come away with back-to-back victories for the first time since 1996-97 season. And despite the match being played behind closed doors, if you play in the streets, we will watch from the pavements. And if we play during a global pandemic in a closed doors match, we will watch from our sofa. Yeah, despite all that, it all felt pretty normal. Rangers coming out victorious against Celtic. In fact, I love Tommy Sheridan's comment about a practice match. It really did have a bit of a practice match feel about it to me as well. Victory against Celtic seen Rangers extend our lead at the top of the league to 4 points. Yes, Celtic have a game in hand, but they need to win that game in hand. And something that Michael Stewart said on Sports Scene, which actually the Sports Scene coverage, primarily because Neil McCann was on it, was first class, but something that Michael Stewart said is Rangers actually have an opportunity to extend their lead to 7 points with the way that the games are being played. I think it's the last season's cup games that are still being played this season. That nonsense. But yes, Celtic, Rangers do have an opportunity to build a 7-point gap ahead of Celtic and put real pressure onto them. Now let's look at the team sheets for both teams, because there's a real narrative going around just now that Celtic had a weakened team. If you look at that Rangers team, that is a very strong squad. There was actually 2 players in contention for a start and had to settle for a place on the bench, and those players for me were Ryan Jack and Yanis Hadji. Ryan Jack really benefited from a strong international period for himself, but the midfield 3 of Kamara, Davis and Arfield deserved to keep their place, as it proved, and it's something that Steven Gerrard touched on post-match when he said that they expected to play a similar style as we did against Galatasaray, and those 3 were pivotal in such a game. Brandon Barker was the surprise on the team sheet, or was he? I was very pro Yanis Hadji starting, 7 assists in 7 matches. I thought he'd be the man to unlock a very leaky Celtic defence. But as soon as the game kicked off, it was clear why Brandon Barker started. I'd recommend anyone to watch Neil McCann's post-match analysis on Sports Scene. It explains how we controlled the game on and off of the ball. And yes, Brandon Barker isn't the best player, but he plays that system very, very well. Steven Gerrard now has the squad that allows him to deploy different tactics, different players to suit different opposition. And for me, that's the reason why Brandon Barker was selected. Although, in my opinion, a better option than Brandon Barker would take our squad to the next level. There's a narrative that Celtic had a weakened squad, but so did we. We were missing our match winner at Celtic Park last time around, Niko Katic. We were missing our big money summer signing, Kemar Roofe. And arguably our most creative player at the start of the season had to settle for a place on the bench for his first game back from injury, Joe Aribo. And not to mention our new summer signing, Bongani Zungu, who's still in quarantine. But let's talk about some of the players that made it. We had Hollander, Barisic, Jack and Aribo all returning from some kind of injury and not at 100% fitness. Let's look at the fees paid for each starting 11, starting with Rangers. Alan McGregor, free. James Tavernier, 200,000. Connor Goldson, 3 million. Philippe Hollander, 4 million. Borna Barisic, 2 million. Glenn Kamara, 50 grand. Stephen Davis, free. Scott Arfield, free. Brandon Barker, free. Ryan Kent, 7.5 million. And Alfredo Morelos, 1 million. That takes the total to 17.75 million for Rangers. And let's look at that leaked Celtic team. Now, only a very unhappy camp leaks the team ahead of the game. And I was called a crackpot for saying that Stephen Welsh and Diego Laxalt, yeah, the girl with the dreadlocks, the glasses, yeah, you know the one, would also start the game. But it proved to be the case. But let's look at the Celtic starting 11. Barking, £4.5 million. Shane Duffy, a loan player, but they paid a £2 million loan fee for him. Christopher Ayer, 500,000. Welsh, I said earlier on, a youngster. Frimpong, 350 grand. Laxalt, a loan player, but let's just not ignore the fact that he was signed by AC Milan for £13.4 million. Scott Brown, 4.4 million. Callum McGregor, another academy player. Oliver Ncham, £4.5 million. El Yunusi, a loan player, again, a signing for Southampton of £16.2 million. I suspect that for him and Laxalt, they would have paid something to bring them in on loan. And finally, Patrick Klimala at £3.5 million. That brings the Celtic total to more than Rangers at £19.75 million. Even when you look at the Celtic bench, they had options like Greg Taylor, £3 million, David Turnbull, £3.25 million, Ismaila Soro, who is he, £2 million, Albion Ayeti, £5 million. It must have been really hard for Neil Lennon to decide which one of his multi-million-pound signings he was going to play against Rangers. Don't believe the narrative about this Celtic squad. Players like Scott Brown can no longer swagger about the pitch as he's up against guys like Rob Kiernan, Philippe Senderos, Miles Bierman, Russell Martin, etc, etc. Celtic were beaten by a better team. The manager outthought by a better manager. These aren't the days of Mark Warburton, Pedro Caixinha, Graham Murty, who all conceded 5 goals against Celtic at some point, and having guys like Moussa Dembele swaggering about on Twitter thinking they're some kind of legends. When Steven Gerrard took over at Rangers, he said that we had to be patient. It would probably take around 4 years to build a squad capable of really challenging Celtic. Well, after 3 years, we now have the squad. We are missing guys like Kemar Roofe, like Niko Katic, but look at that squad. That was a very strong squad. It now feels capable of really challenging Celtic and winning title 55. Let's talk about the game itself. In real time, I thought it wasn't pretty. Rangers didn't really get out of second gear, and if I'm honest, they didn't have to because Celtic were so poor. I thought that the pace was slower than usual, and I thought that was directly related to the game being played behind closed doors. Having watched it back, we got our tactics spot on, we controlled the game, we had a game plan, we have a real identity about our team, something that I think Celtic are lacking at the moment. You look at it from the opposite side. The Celtic players who had the most touches of the ball were their defenders. And Callum McGregor's comments, it seems that they were completely thrown by the fact that Steven Gerrard and Michael Beale mixed up our tactics and we let them play with the ball. We didn't press them. Our wing backs were deeper. That completely threw them. That's my point about Neil Lennon being completely outthought by a better manager. Let me ask you a question. After watching that match, which of the Celtic players would make it into our strongest starting 11? It was men v boys. I want to single out a few of our players. Firstly, Connor Goldson. Yep, our poster boy. See what I done there? Like it. Honestly, Steven Gerrard post-match laughed when he said that he didn't expect, nor did Connor Goldson expect to score 2 goals, but he deserves all the credit. He's a player that I've been praising throughout the season, and somebody that I've been a fan of ever since he joined, and I'm glad that people are starting to recognise the importance of Connor Goldson to our team. But you can see with these goals, 2 very well taken goals. The first one, the cross from James Tavernier, inch perfect, but it's a run from Goldson. When you look at it in slow motion and in the sports scene highlights in particular, it shows you that Duffy just drops deep and that plays Connor Goldson on, but you can't take anything away from the header. Although you can say that the goalkeeper was a little bit suspect. In my opinion, Fraser Forster would have saved that. Let me know your thoughts on that, but for me, Celtic not signing Fraser Forster and spending £4.5 million on Barkas is going to cost them. Second goal, excellent play. excellent play. Rangers played some excellent play throughout the game. Excellent play out wide, getting the ball in the box. Terrible defending again. Statues, 3 Celtic defenders static in the middle of the box. Connor Goldson, that fox in the box. I think it was Alan Coyce that said it at the time on Sky. It looked scrappy at first glance, but when you watch it for the second time round, and as I did for the 102nd time round, you actually see when the ball ricochets back to Goldson, he calmly slots it under the legs. It's actually a very, very good finish. So credit to Connor Goldson. Then there's no surrender, Hollander. Hollander was first class. Neil McCann said it in his post-match analysis. You can see that he's defended in the Italian league, in the Serie A. He reads the game so well, but he put his body on the line. Before the season kicked off, I had a video asking the question, should we be concerned by central defence? And it was after the injury of Niko Katic. And I still look back and think that it was the right question to ask. And we went and signed Leon Balogun. But one of the unknowns for me was Philippe Hollander and his fitness and his ability to play a consistent run of games. We are seeing the importance of Philippe Hollander as a partnership with Connor Goldson in front of a goalkeeper like Alan McGregor. I don't want to jinx it. If Philippe Hollander can stay fit and Connor Goldson can stay fit and they can be the partnership, that's a really, really strong spine to our squad. Hollander, for me, was first class against Celtic. And then we have Camaradona. I love that. I'm not coining that. I don't know who made that up, but my mate Costa sent it to me. And I love it. Camaradona, superb. 50 grand. 50 grand for Camara. Another cigar smoking, slippers on kind of performance for Kamara. Honestly, some of his football was just a joy to watch. Spoke out the second goal. Kamara made the space with some great touches out wide, the 1-2. But there was some moments through the game, there was a no-look pass. It was brilliant, but it was his composure on the ball. He's so important for us. And again, Steven Gerrard's post-match press conference suggested that Kamara might be the one to drop out for Ryan Jack. Not a chance can you drop that Glenn Kamara. And I'm going to go back to some of the videos that I said at the beginning of the season. I actually said that I would have sold Kamara. I thought that we were going to get a big money bid from a team like Marseille, circa £6 million for Kamara. And I said that I'd take it because I wanted somebody who's more forward thinking than Glenn Kamara. I wouldn't sell him. I've seen people talking about new contracts. 2 of the players that I've just mentioned there, Connor Goldson, Glenn Kamara, Rangers, get them tied down in new contracts immediately. I want to just highlight a comment from Steven Gerrard post-match because I think it sums up everything that I've been speaking about. We weren't at our fluent best, but we didn't need to be because it was a really controlled, professional performance. I'm going to go back to the Neil McCann analysis on Sports Scene. One of the things that Neil McCann spoke about in Sports Scene was Rangers sat in. We didn't gamble, we didn't expose ourselves because we knew we were the better team. We had confidence that we would get our goals, but we knew that our defence would not concede goals. Now I could be highly critical and say that we did get caught out twice. Both Goldson and Hollander had moments at the back where El Yunusi should have scored, where Lee Griffiths should have scored. But latterly, that Griffiths chance, Hollander recovered very, very well. But it was a very professional performance. He also spoke about the game plan being executed perfectly. I think when you watch that analysis on Sports Scene and you watch how we sat deeper, we allowed our defence to have the ball, it all makes sense for me now. And there's massive credit that goes to Steven Gerrard, that goes to Michael Beale, but the one that goes sometimes unnoticed is Tom Coulshaw. 2 of our goals, one was directly from a set piece and the second one was indirectly from a set piece. That's Tom Coulshaw's bag, that's his responsibility. Some of our coaches are top drawer. We've got a top manager. I don't see where the criticism of Steven Gerrard is now. All you Rangers fans that were criticising him at some point, I hope we are all behind the manager, the management team and the playing staff right now because this is exciting. Now I've said this for a while. One defeat, the wheels come off. There's an implosion. We've let Celtic off the hook so many times after an Old Firm game because we've not capitalised. The post-match reaction sums up the wheels coming off. You've seen Alan Thompson having an absolute meltdown. He's turned their wings against us. Honestly, Alan Thompson was on something. Look at those posts from Alan Thompson. Look at the post from Roger Mitchell, the former chief executive of Scottish football. You know, you've got one blaming the CEO, you've got another blaming the manager. There's discontent. There's a video doing the rounds as well of the James Tavernier free kick late on in the game where Barkas touches it over the bar and Scott Brown's asking questions of what are you doing? The wheels are falling off. We cannot be complacent. It's enjoyable. It's fascinating to watch the post-match reaction. Our job now is to make it count. So what's next for Rangers? Well, we have the Europa League coming up on Thursday. We then have a tough game at home at Ibrox against Livingston. We then have another Europa League game. Then we have the game at Rugby Park against Kelly. Those are the games that we need to win. The victory at Celtic Park means absolutely nothing if we do not go and beat Livy, we don't go and beat Kelly. Look at those fixtures. We have an opportunity to go into the next international break in November next month on maximum points. We need to put that pressure onto Celtic. If we keep doing that, I'm convinced the wheels will fall off even further. There'll be an implosion. You watch this space. So what's next for CF3 Loyal? Well, I said earlier on I wouldn't be vlogging after every Rangers match. I'll maybe get the camera out after the games, like the Old Firm that I just loved. But I will be guest appearing on other podcasts. Watch this space for next Sunday, where I will be appearing on Gersnet live on YouTube at 9:30. Please tune in, and thank you to Frankie for having me on. Anyway, that's it for tonight. Thank you very much for watching. I am CF3 Loyal. Stay safe, stay staunch.